Alrighty, 3, 2, 1. Are we live? We've apparently been live for a while. Oh yeah, here we are. We're live. It's very delayed on my computer screen. Welcome back, ladies, gents, everything in between. I am your narrator, Fallout Sheppy, and yes, I have not shaved my armpits in months. Ignore it. If you can't ignore it, you're a pussy. Anyway. Or you're just, hair freaks you out. Which, yeah, some people literally just have a fear of body hair. You might notice my voice is kind of tired. You might also notice that it's been 3 days since the Yandere Dev video. Yes, my voice is still kind of fucked. And that's because I'm stupid, I'm salty, and I got loud and angry. Excuse me. So, if my voice goes during this stream, don't be surprised, but don't be concerned either. It's basically a long time coming. But if you can read correctly, and I'm sure many of you can, this is Jane the Killer 2017, and by our tags, we have Mother of Fuck, this page is long like my penis, Bad Fanfiction, Mary Sue Alert, and Jeff the Killer. And yes, this is indeed on the JTK fandom wiki, or Jeff the Killer wiki, whatever. Because the other one got taken over and is now just the kittens. Which I'm very happy about, actually. I may be, adjusting my microphone constantly because I really don't want to fuck with my microphone settings. Who the fuck? Aww. So, if you don't know, Roblox got taken down for a while by the President of the United States. Oh god. While I feel bad that it was the only game that the President's son could play, I'm also, a little bit happy in my heart, because it's good riddance for a while. Make those kids go outside. Make those YouTubers go outside, or play another game. God forbid you don't play Piggy or whatever the fuck that spider game is. Before I get too off topic, we should probably start. And you know it's always good when we have an author's note. Author's note. This is a spin-off of Jeff the Killer 2015 reboot. No! No! Yes, Roblox must be destroyed. Also, sorry, Kobe, I'm in the middle of streaming. Sorry, well, I'm not in the middle of it, but, still, who the fuck? Delete. Sorry, Kobe, I don't mean to just like your comment and leave. But I want to do this a little quick because I do have possible Homestuck stream in a little bit. Which I don't know if you're interested in watching it, but it's kind of funny, especially with how bored we get and go off topic. Like I keep doing here. By Manning K, 1979. Ugh, hiccup. His remake can be found here. I will never read Jeff the Killer 2015. Ever. Ever. Both Jeff and Jane are considerably different than their original incarnations. You don't say. He becomes burnt-faced dude in the remake. Is basically almost the same story up until they turn him into half-burnt face guy instead. I'm well aware that Jane Arkansas is a plagiarized version of the original character, but I was unaware of this at the time of what? Wait. Jane's a plagiarized character? I thought it was... Ooh. Wow, and I thought the Nazi shit was bad. That you're a Nazi and a plagiarist. Great. Fucking great. I am honestly not sure what to do at the moment, as I have actually been unable to find what the original surname of the was of the character. If anyone can help me with this particular issue, please contact or comment with information or advice. I can't help you, sorry. I'm sure somebody in the comments did. Why is this so fucking long? I should probably angle this. Fuck it, I just need to learn to sit up straight. The poster read, 2017 Fall Masquerade, October 30th, at the Hayden Memorial City Center. 3450 US 190, Everlast, LA, 70448. Doors open 6 p.m. Male and female mask provided. Unique masks encouraged. The bottom half of the poster featured 2 theater masks, one laughing and one sobbing. Yes, because everybody knows that you must have comedy and tragedy with every poster. Like, I know that it's a very common thing. Like, even when I was in school, almost every poster had it. Because it's just a staple in theater. But it would be nice if I saw one, just one, that didn't have it plastered on there. Or at least didn't have it, like, at the very top, centered, or taking on the 2 corners. You know, maybe if they did something unique with it. I am eating shelled sunflower seeds, I am sorry. But it is lunchtime, and I need to eat too. Standing in the hallway of Everlast High School, Jane read the poster and reread it, trying to reassure herself. She had lived in the small town for nearly 5 years, and she had dreamed of attending the Fall Masquerade as a high school junior. She had snuck in years earlier, but this was her year. Hey, JK, what you doing here? Jane looked over in the empty school hallway. Melissa is walking toward her with a new girl at school. Hey, Mel, Jane called. Turning to face the two, Melissa was a dark brunette. No, that is a period, okay. Melissa was a dark brunette with... Fuck me. With a side smile on her face. Oh boy. You know, I thought the writing was doing okay. And then we get that shit in one sentence. Oh boy. Knowing that Jane hated what she was doing. What? Melissa was a dark brunette with a side smile on her face, knowing that Jane hated what she was doing. No, that didn't help. That didn't help make sense in my mind. The girl next to Melissa was blonde, and she looked unsure of herself. Jane was tall than both of them. Something for which Melissa and a few others had mocked her to no end, and her black hair extended to the crease in her back. She addressed the new girl. I'm Jane. I'm Tracy, the new girl said, apprehension obvious in her petite voice. I moved her like a week ago, but I haven't started school yet. Too late in the semester. Melissa's showing me around. Oh my god. You could, I don't know, reread, go back over it, just check every time the little red line pops up underneath a word? Or the green one, I think, pops up when there's like a grammatical error, and then red is spelling. Jane nodded. Melissa likes to show new girls around. She did it for me when I first moved here. Melissa stepped in between Jane and Tracy. She gave Melissa a knowing look. Seriously, JK, what are you doing here? Harold. Oh, I don't know why I do that. The L is not next to the exclamation point. How? How? That makes no sense. Class ended 2 hours ago. Plus, you told me that you still haven't bought your dress for the masquerade. JK? Tracy asked blankly, clearly confused. She looked towards Jane with a raised eyebrow. Are those, like, your initials or something? No, Jane stammered. My name's Jane Arkansas. It's... JK is an inside joke. Just remember who's in charge, Tracy. You may just learn it, Melissa said, winking at Tracy. Jane's basically the queen of the town. Here we fucking go. Don't listen to her, Jane said firmly. She's just messing with you. Melissa shook her head. Jane's dad owns most of the town. That's why we give her lunch money to her every day. I wish, Jane thought, tightly clutching the envelopes she held at her side. Lunch money? Tracy spoke slowly and looked like a deer caught in a car's headlights. Jane instantly felt sorry for her because she reminded Jane of how naive she herself was when she first moved here. She didn't want to point out the obvious, so she changed the subject. Well, how are you enjoying the town? Jane asked, trying to be enthused. I always thought some parts were pretty weird. Tracy shrugged and looked at her feet. She started as if she was considering whether she wanted to ask. Is this the Jeff town? Melissa wouldn't tell me if this is where he started killing people. Great. And we get our first mention of our antagonist. Great. If you can't tell, I'm not very enthusiastic about Jeff the Killer. At all. It's a piss poor story. Melissa's amused look vanished, and she gave Jane a serious look. Jane glanced at her quickly and then looked back at Tracy. Don't talk about that, Jane said quietly. Her father had only ever hit her once. Okay. A bit of a jump of subject, but okay. Her father had only ever hit her once, and it was for talking about Jeff the Killer. She remembered the black eyes swelling, and how easily the teachers had accepted her bad excuses. It's really taboo. Taboo? Tracy repeated incredulous. Seriously? Tracy, Melissa said flatly, listen to Jane on this one. You'll be better off. Melissa looked back towards Jane. She tried to resume her playful attitude, but she looked disturbed. Jane wondered how Melissa's parents had disciplined her about the Jeff taboo. Oh god, is this going to be a recurring word theme? The Jeff taboo? Because if so, I'm going to have some choice words at the end. Calling it the Jeff taboo doesn't make it special. Just saying. No one ever talked about it, but Jane presumed it was violent for everyone. I don't think that's how you should use the word violent. So, let's talk about the other elephant in the room, Melissa said, addressing Jane. You still haven't told me why you're at school after hours. Why the fuck does that even matter? Why does staying after school matter? Did she never do this? You never actually, like... Yeah, seriously, why the fuck? You don't even mention that, like, she never does it or something. Ugh. Whatever. You still have told me while you're at school after hours. Don't change the subject, Tracy said stubbornly. I want to know why you two looked so freaked out all of a sudden. Are you really that stupid? Jane asked spitefully. Now Tracy reminded Jane too much of how she herself used to be when she was new to town. Her face felt fuzzy, remembering the sensation of her father's fist coming into contact with it. Jesus Christ, I don't want to hear about that. Especially since it's probably not going to have any bearing on the story later on. This is probably just here to give you some, need for sympathy. Which, I'm sorry, you're not going to get it from me. They renamed the town because no one's supposed to talk about that. Just keep your mouth shut. Tracy seemed taken aback, her eyes widening in surprise. Whoa, Melissa was right, Tracy said flatly. You really are a bitch. I think I've seen enough of the school for a day. Just go wait by my car, Melissa sighed, rubbing her temples. Okay? Okay, Tracy said quietly. Jane and Melissa watched her turn the corner of the hallway. You know, it would be really great if it suddenly took a dark turn and Jane really did start killing people, starting with Tracy. And all because she didn't want Jeff to be mentioned again. That would be a great twist, to be 100% fair on my end. At least it would be interesting to me. But, because then it would give her the whole Jane the killer background and whatever. And it all started because she wanted to stop people from mentioning Jeff. It would kind of be ripping off Freddy versus Jason with the whole we don't talk about Freddy Krueger thing. But, at least with this one, it could be the risk of Jeff coming back isn't actually there and the whole town's just paranoid. And then when Jane starts killing people, it's like Jeff actually is back. The thing she wanted to prevent all along. See? That's how you make Jane the Killer a better story. And I give people full permission to write that version if they want. I don't care if you take my idea, just kind of mention this video. I really hope she doesn't get lost on the way to the parking lot, Melissa said, trying in vain to lighten the mood. Did you really call me a bitch behind my back? Jane asked Melissa. In my defense, Melissa said, trying to keep a straight face, I wasn't very loud. Jane laughed. I just don't want her to talk herself into a bad spot. Why didn't you tell her before? Melissa scoffed. Well, first of all, that's like telling someone not to think about elephants. Second, telling her not to talk about it would count as talking about it. I was sort of hoping she wouldn't ask. Of course she would ask, Melissa. She's going to get herself in trouble if she asks the wrong person the wrong thing. Let's just try to keep that from happening to her, okay? Jane asked. She realized that Melissa was looking at the manila envelope Jane held in her hand. What's that? A late assignment, Mr. Dawson. Mr. Dawson's staying late today. When the fuck did Shane become a teacher? He's staying late today and said he'd accept it. Hopefully he doesn't mind that it's crumpled, she said. She had practiced the lie enough to say without shifting her gauge or stuttering. Melissa Is that even the right way to use incredulous? Is that even the correct way? Unwilling or unable to believe something. Melissa's incredulous look made her realize her practice was for nothing. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Fair enough, yes, that was actually used properly. Who carries homework in a manila envelope, Jane? Why are you lying to me? It's essay from last week. Did you mean it's an essay from last week? Said confidently. I got caught up trying to figure out Fall Masquerade. Melissa glanced over at the poster Jane had been looking at earlier. Jane, I want to know if you're okay. I don't think you are. Melissa seemed like she could always see right through Jane. It didn't even matter that Jane had practiced the lie. Even then, Jane felt like Melissa was the only one who cared about her. But Jane was sick of being taken care of. At the end of the day, she needed to make her own choices, and she had to do what she thought was necessary. which is probably gonna be passed the fuck out every 5 fucking minutes. I keep dropping sunflower seeds into my lap. Where did I? It's an important assignment. I just can't take my dad right now. Jane didn't lie, but it was still a redirect. Melissa swallowed. Did he hit you again? Okay, a little bit of what's the word? Chekhov's gun. It was brought up, and now it's, we're actually getting a little bit of a callback to it. It's not a very far along callback, but it's nonetheless, we're actually getting some context to the whole inclusion of that. I'll give them that. It's still not a very good story. Keep that in mind. It's still not a very good story. But at least they're, connecting dots. Something the other story wouldn't fucking do. At all. Jane appreciated that Melissa never learned to beat around the bush, but hearing her ask that hurt a lot. He hasn't done that in years, Jane said timidly. Really? Melissa's tone was bitter, and Jane feared that she knew that Jane was trying to cover something up. You're acting like someone just hit you. Jane didn't know what to say to that, so she said nothing. Her lips tightened and her face felt numb again. She could still feel the tears rolling down her cheeks. I can't help you if you don't talk to me. I'm not going to stand here and watch you cry, okay? Melissa's voice was sympathetic, but when Jane said nothing, her voice was hard. Fine, JK, fine. Be that way. I can understand the frustration because they're kids still. But if you're trying to help, don't have that attitude towards people. That's all I can say. Oh god, hiccup. Jane knew Melissa hated watching people cry. And she felt terrible about using it to get Melissa to leave. I can understand hating to listen to people cry, but what's wrong with watching people cry? Unless you're the one that made them cry, you shouldn't be upset that they're crying. Actually, I guess you shouldn't be upset somebody's crying. It's kind of dumb. Unless they're fake crying, then by all means, please be mad. She washed her face off in the bathroom and walked down the hallway toward Mr. Dawson's classroom. It was nearly 6 p.m. What school is open that late? Unless, to be fair, football practice and shit. My old school went to 7, so give or take. It was nearly 6 p.m., and through the classroom curtains, Jane could see the sun begin to sink. Mr. Dawson took a deep, nervous breath as he watched Jane enter the classroom. He opened his mouth slightly to say something, but he didn't. Jane lightly placed the envelope on the desk in front of him, and Mr. Dawson watched it like it was the only thing in the world. He slowly grabbed it, watching Jane closely with suspicion. His eyes shot open when he opened the envelope. He involuntarily... Ew, God. Why? Why? The setup is so cool. Very professional. Uh-oh. Almost lost it. And then I lost it. Oh, why do they always go to this? Why? Mr. Dawson involuntarily licked his lips and put the pictures back into the envelope. You're very beautiful, Jane, Mr. Dawson offered, trying to smile. Can you just go fuck yourself already and give me the cash? Jane spat back, nodding towards the envelope of pictures. My face isn't in any of them, but if I see any scans or digital copies, I'll call the cops. I'm still 17. It's still child porn. Oh my god, why? What is the point? Why? There better be a fucking point to this. Jane couldn't believe she was talking about herself. So you do know how to do your homework. Interesting. Mr. Dawson laughed, a wretched smile spreading across his face. I assure you, I'm not sharing these with anyone. She nearly threw up in her mouth, but forced it down. Ugh. I'm about to throw up. He used the same tone he used in class. And Jane couldn't believe this was the same person who was supposed to teach her things. No. Somehow, in all the years she had spent in school, she hadn't learned a way to get out of this. She watched Mr. Dawson slide the money across his desk. Jane quickly counted it, nodded, disgusted with herself. Mr. Dawson let out a smug laugh. A few years ago, they almost fired half the teachers. Now I can afford something like this. Mr. Dawson sighed, satisfied with himself. Your father really did bring this city back from the brink, Jane. Ugh, that's disgusting. Oh, fuck me. Just threw sunflower seeds all over my bed. Like a dumbass. Okay. He could have you fired, Jane shot back. I could ask him to do that. You won't, Mr. Dawson said confidently, holding up the envelope. He gestured towards Jane's seat in the front row of his classroom. I'm amazed how many of your classmates pay more attention than they do to me. Like I said, Jane, you're very beautiful. To be frank, I doubt they'd need your face at all. What the fuck? Why? When did this even start? What the fuck? Jane numbly placed the money back in the black wallet that belonged to her mom. Her mother's old driver's license stared back at her, the last picture Jane had managed to save from her father's purge. Jane had seen the resemblance grow the longer she carried it, but her mother always smiled, a quirk Jane lacked. Smiling's not a quirk. She placed the wallet in her pocket. As Jane closed the door behind her, she heard the faint sound of a zipper. She began to cry and ran towards her car in the parking lot. God. I regret this. I regret this. I regret this. I fucking regret this. Melissa was there waiting for her. Jane didn't say anything and just ran to Melissa, hugged her, crying on her shoulder, letting the money fall from her hands. How's the money still in her hands if she put it in the wallet? Consistency would be nice, please. And like she always did, she told Melissa everything. I'm sorry, Jane sobbed. She couldn't think of anything else to say, so she hugged Melissa closer and kept saying the same thing. I'm so sorry. Melissa said nothing and helped Jane stagger towards the passenger seat of Jane's car. Jane saw her gather the money from the parking lot ground and go back into the school. She emerged holding the envelope Jane had carried to Mr. Dawson. Don't ask, Melissa said, entering the driver's seat. She tossed the envelope of pictures onto Jane's lap. Jane looked at Melissa quickly and got a silent look in return. Jane tore it to shreds. By the time she finished, she was covered in bits of herself. Melissa drove Jane through the old part of town that used to be called Mandeville. Why? Why does this have to be a shitty fucking spin-off to a shitty remake? Why? They're so fucking stupid. No shit. It was the area hit hardest in the town's economic downfall after Jeff the Killer's emergence. Jane could tell Melissa was taking Jane home, but Jane noticed they were close enough to an important spot. Turn here, Jane said, her voice still rough from crying. Huh? Melissa blinked and did as Jane said. Jane guided her along the old roads which hadn't been repaved in years. The various shops and stores were decrepit, and those that weren't already closed had various signs on them. For sale, for rent. Her father had told her that they moved to this town to try to rebuild it. Jane always felt like she had was just along for the ride. Anywhere else in Everlast, still a stupid town name, Jane would be worshipped as the savior's daughter, but this part of town was the one her father chose to leave on its own for a time. It's so stupid. No, she wouldn't. Why would she be praised? People don't praise Ivanka Trump. They praise his wife. Well, that's because, like, everybody has seen her naked. There, Jane said quickly, realizing that she had almost let Melissa pass it. Oh God, Melissa said, seeing the building Jane pointed to. She pointed... I just spat on my computer screen. She parked across the street on the desolate road. Dusk was beginning to fall. Melissa barely looked away from Jane's destination. The costume shop? What do you want to do there? Jane undid her seatbelt and stepped out of the car. I'll explain in a second. I just have to do something first. Looking down, she saw that she still had shreds of the photos clinging to her pants. She brushed them off and watched the wind carry away the indiscernible fragments. Oh my God. You don't need the second away. You can take out one or the other. Jane crossed the street. She walked toward the costume shop, but she forced herself to look away from the display window holding an elegant black dress on a white mannequin. The store next to the costume shop was an abandoned video store. Melissa told her that it used to be a video store. Die for fuck's sake. So there's also the Department of Redundancy department nearby. It was empty now, devoid of shelves, seats, or anything. In front of the old video store was a rusting bike rack. It was brown and most of its limbs had been torn apart, likely from people using tools to steal the bikes people had there. Jane shivered as she passed it. The display window was clear glass, and even in the dusk Jane could make out the details of the dress. It left nothing to the imagination. 2 straps were slung around the mannequin's shoulders, holding the dress up. It hugged the mannequin's hips closely and draped around the figure's legs before ending short of the knees. As if that's important. Oh, yeah, no, believe me, I get it. This is going to be the dress she comes back and gets. It's going to be for the masquerade ball, and that's where she's going to start stabbing people, isn't it? Oh, great, people are home. This is going to be fun. Jane walked into the store and saw the owner, Edwin Drescher, standing behind the counter. Drescher's face was wide and red, and he was portly. His large arms rested on the counter. He watched Jane closely with his wide face and thoughtful eyes. His gaze was intense. Arkansas's pretty little girl back again, Drescher said, grinning. You get it? Jane felt her gut tighten as she tried to speak. I need to, Jane started, but Drescher interrupted her. You hear me, pretty girl? Drescher said mockingly. I said show me the money. Jane grunted and reached into her pocket, pulling out her mother's old wallet. There's so many missing words. Or there's extra words. Never anything in between. She removed the credit card behind the license and tossed it onto the counter. The name on the card was Drake L. Arkansas. It doesn't space the L from Arkansas very well, so it looks like it says Drake Larkansas. Listen, kid. I don't know when you got a sense of humor, but I already told you, I'm not taking your dad's money. I told you to earn the money yourself and come back. Until then, the dress ain't for sale. Fair enough, Jane said, putting the card back into her wallet behind her mother's license. The only picture of her Jane had seen. Yes, we know. Her father had destroyed all the others. You want to know something? I just tried to do something really stupid because I really thought I wanted to buy the dress you keep in the window. Then I found out that I have a friend that I will never deserve, and she saved me from making a terrible mistake. The only reason I'm here is because I wanted to tell you that the dress is not worth as much to me as I thought it was. Drescher grinned. Well, shit, kid, that's the most beautiful thing I've heard in my life. He raised an eyebrow and looked on, and his face looked interested. Who's this friend of yours? It doesn't matter. We're done. Have a nice night. Jane turned and started walking to the door, but Drescher called after her. Kid, he called. You want to know why I hate your dad's guts? Probably not the same reason I do, Jane thought bitterly. She stopped and turned around. My name's Jane, she said, annoyed. And why would that be? Well, Jane, your dad came in here with his bags of money, promising to make this town a place where no more Jeffs could come from. Nothing's changed. Mr. Drescher, Jane said, the numb feeling in her face returning. We're not supposed to... Oh, would you shut up? I know the rule and I don't give a shit, Drescher growled. You really think not talking about him's gonna make him go away? Won't bring back my little girl, that's for damn sure. That's who I made that dress for. Oh, that's actually kind of sad. That's actually kind of sad. Also, Drescher's the tailor? Hot damn! The way he sounds like a butcher. Jane's eyes finally spotted the bottle on the far side of the counter. Drescher was drunk, and suddenly Jane didn't feel very safe. Drescher stared at her intensely, but his eyes became tired suddenly. Hear me out, he said quietly, just loud enough for Jane to hear from where she was standing. He took a deep breath. I watched my grandson walk out of this costume shop 5 years ago, and he decided to mess with the wrong crazy kid. I watched him and his piece of shit friends get their asses kicked. None of them deserve what happened to them. My daughter and her daughter sure as hell didn't either. We're naming the town, switching the zip code. Just because your dad tears down a few buildings and builds a city near the center with their names on it, doesn't mean this town is any different. He's a fraud, and everyone's so drunk on his money they can't even see that another kid's probably gonna start stabbing people soon enough. Oh, there's the foreshadowing. Foreshadowing. Wait, so... Hey! I just noticed you were in the comment section. Welcome. Like, are they actually going to take... Are they really taking the Freddy versus Jason route? Except, like I said, she's just gonna start stabbing people that talk about Jeff. Is that really what's gonna start happening? Because it feels like that's what's gonna start happening. I just glance over and all I can see is, boy. Every time I hear it in the back of my mind, I hear Kratos. Boy. I don't care what you think of my dad, Jane asked, shrugging. She wanted to run away, but for some reason, she couldn't turn away from Drescher. What does this have to do with me? Jane, you'll probably live longer if you just learn to shut up and listen. Someone finally said it! Someone finally said it! Someone finally told her to shut the fuck up more than once! Good! Good! I'm sorry, this is, like, stupidly cathartic in a way. Look, whoever this friend of yours is, I guarantee is out for themselves. Don't kid yourself. No one's got any friends in this town. My grandkid Randy. Randy! Your Kratos sounds like... Damn it, Bobby. It's okay, I absolutely love King of the Hill, so that's a compliment. Thank you. I kill gods and all of their followers. Nah, that's not... No. That wasn't a good propane and propane accessories joke. Pretty much everyone's oh wait, my grandkid Randy learned too late he didn't have any real friends. Everyone is out for themselves. Pretty much everyone's a sick fuck deep down. I hope you can see that it was like that before, Jeff, and it won't change unless someone burns this town to the ground. Drescher stepped from behind the counter and walked past Jane. I just realized something. I should be giving him Fran Drescher's voice. Except that I can't do the nasally yeah very well. So, not gonna try. Drescher stepped from behind the counter and walked past Jane, opened the back of the display window, and methodically removed the dress from the mannequin. Jane watched him pass her again and bring the dress to the counter. Drescher swiped the bottle of alcohol to the side, and it slipped off the counter, shattering on the floor. Drescher didn't look like he noticed as he removed several tags from the dress and put it on a hanger. Take it, he said calmly. What? Why? It's for the masquerade, right? Drescher grinned, but he looked sad. Oh no. Don't tell me he's just gonna suddenly, like, turn around and go, you remind me of my daughter or my granddaughter. Don't tell me that's what's gonna happen, is that he's suddenly so drunk that he's, like, sympathetic for her. Please. Jane blinked in surprise. Yeah? Should be just enough time to get it tailored and clean. There's a place down the road that'll do it quick. Now take it. Drescher extended his arm around the counter and held the dress out. Jane's... Okay, it might just be me and, like, my piss poor, like, thought process. But when I read extended his arm around the counter, I thought he pulled, like, a Mr. Fantastic and literally just stretched his arm all the way around the counter to hand it to her. I'm also really sorry that the volume keeps peaking because I keep getting loud. Because I'm horrible at controlling my volume. Both literally and on the computer. I'm trying not to yawn. Jane stepped closer to... Excuse me. Jane stepped closer to where it was in reach, but she hesitated taking it. Why are you doing this? She asked, surprised that she sounded angry. After everything I just had to go through to try to get the money, you're just going to give it to me. What is wrong with you? You didn't tell me what you had to go through, first of all. She half did. She didn't give specifics. G Fuel, X Moon Pie flavor. Ugh. Oh, no. No moon pie. No. Keep that banana shit away from me. Bananas are gross. But yeah, she kind of half said. But in case you haven't noticed, I was just celebrating my going out of business sale. Drescher looked sadly at the bottle fragments on the floor. Sale starts tomorrow. You're closing? Yeah. Now can you just take this thing already? Drescher shook the hanger holding the black dress. My arm's getting tired. Jane took the hanger and looked at the dress, feeling a bittersweet taste in her mouth. What's the catch? She asked, eyeing Drescher closely. Drescher leaned against the wall. I expected you'd just make a withdrawal and walk in here try and pull one over on me. Or just have your dad threaten to close my store. Would have worked since I'm closing anyway. Oh, wouldn't have worked since I'm closing anyway. But you actually tried to raise the money. Never believed you would. I almost did, Jane thought. A chill ran down her back. So, thank you? Jane wasn't sure what to say. Drescher grinned and yawned. Look, kid, I've never actually met your dad, but I think you got spunk. Never say that again. Spunk? If you know, you know. Jane laughed awkwardly. Okay then. Drescher shook his head and crossed his arms. Jane, my time in this town is up, and you seem hell-bent on getting that dress for some reason. If I can do one thing right before I go, then maybe my life wasn't completely worthless, even if being a father was. Is he gonna kill himself? Oh god, my poor volume. Is he gonna fucking kill himself? Like, legit? Why? No, I get that it's, like, his daughter and, like, granddaughter are gone, but, like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Jane tried to think of some way to comfort him, and instead she told him a secret, one she'd never told anyone, not even Melissa. Jeff killed my mother, Jane said sadly. She wasn't sure why she said it. She didn't know if she had made a mistake telling him or not. I'm sorry about your family. Drescher nodded and didn't say anything as Jane left. As she crossed the street, he whispered under his breath, Might be hope for this goddamn town yet. No! How? What the fuck is she gonna do? What the fuck is she gonna do? She's probably gonna be the one to start stabbing people. You know, the thing you just said is probably gonna happen. You know, your little foreshadowing moment, Mr. Drescher. Is it weird if I make a tranny joke that it's Fran Drescher, but she got a sex change to be a portly old man? Actually, I don't think Fran Drescher's that old. I don't know. I'm not going to take the time to look up Fran Drescher's age. Melissa saw her approaching, holding the dress. Jane opened the back seat and hung the hanger, carefully folding over the lower half of the dress to make sure it didn't get damaged from the back of the car. Well, Melissa muttered as Jane entered the car. You want to talk about it? I'm lucky you were there, Jane said quietly, letting her head sink. What happened to Tracy? And your car? Melissa blinked in surprise and answered. I let her drive herself home, since it wasn't too far. She's a quick learner, lives across the street from me, so she could park at my house. I can drive you back so you don't have to walk. Jane, I don't know if you noticed, but you're kind of a wreck at the moment. Fair point. Jane shifted her weight to lean against the car door. Want to drive me home, then? Want to tell me what the deal with the dress is? Melissa glanced towards the back of the car. Sure, Jane said sourly. Melissa deserved to hear the truth, but that didn't make saying it any easier. I wanted the dress, and the guy who owns the store wouldn't let me pay for it with my dad's money. So you... Melissa glanced at the bits of shredded photos on the floor of the car. Jane... I needed cash, Jane said frankly, trying to sound in control. My dad won't let me get a job. Maybe because he's afraid you'd do something insane like this. There was bitter sarcasm in Melissa's words. Melissa, I swear to God, if you start taking your side, I'm on your side, Jane. Why is that dress suddenly so important? It's not sudden, Jane said sharply. It's for the fall masquerade. Ever since we snuck in when we were freshmen, I had this perfect idea of how I wanted it to go. That dress was part of it, and I guess nothing else mattered besides getting the money for it. But I threw that money back into Dawson's face. How'd you get the dress? He just gave it to me, and I'm not entirely sure why. He kept saying everyone's out for themselves, and Jeff killed his daughter and grandson. Oh, oops. I kept saying granddaughter. Sheppy shamelessly misgendering people is up to how many now? Shame. Ding 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 ding. I still haven't gotten that bell, but I might just get one. Might. I don't know. Might be bad for my microphone. Dang, Jane. That's the first time you've ever brought him up. Naughty, naughty, Melissa said playfully. He was Randy Hansen's grandpa, Mom's side. Jeff let everyone know he was going to kill Randy and others who messed with him. But he also killed most of Randy's family. His dad somehow lived, but Mrs. Hayden didn't. Neither did the child she was pregnant with. Christ, Jane whispered. When did that happen? Year before you moved here? Randy's dad took all the money and left. Town dried up because no one wanted to visit a serial killer's hometown in case he came back. False! Fucking false! Do you know how many people try to go see Ted Bundy's fucking old house? Do you know how many people sign up to get a tour of the fucking Jeffrey Dahmer apartment? Do you understand how people fantasize over serial killers? It's people treat serial killers partially like celebrities. Okay? It's a little bit disturbing, but it sadly happens. So no, your whole comment of people don't want to visit the hometown of a serial killer. Bullshit. Bullshit. There are people that would go to that town to wait for him to come back to fuck him. Are you kidding me? Yeah, you know, negating the fact that they're both children. I'm sorry if you have headphones. I should probably just, like, my YouTube banner should just be headphone warning. Period. Oh, God. Hometown kids came back. Looked bad for a while, but then your dad moved in and things got better. How? How did they get better? How did he also move everybody to another part of town / another zip code? Oh wait, it's gonna be explained. I'm dumb. I need to learn to read it. Need to learn to read ahead a little bit. How do you know all of this? Jane said. Melissa pointed towards the costume shop. Drescher wouldn't shut up about it. They had signs and everything demanding all kinds of stuff. Best part, he actually had a decent-sized crowd doing it with him. When your dad took over, all of it stopped. Town went from Mandeville to Everlast, USA. Oh, great. So it is in America's... Oh, wait. Yeah, the spin-off from the last one was in... Yeah. Even gave us a different zip code. It's like Jeff killed the town itself. Insert taboo. Quit abusing the word taboo. There are other words synonymous with taboo, like bad, or not to be mentioned, or unspeakable. I just spit everywhere. What's another word? Off limits. I don't know. I'm not a thesaurus or a dictionary. Jane remembered how Mr. Dawson said he was able to afford the pictures because of Jane's father. Jane had obeyed the taboo religiously because she was so afraid of her father, and she saw now that she had ignored how most of the town was still living in Jeff's shadow. Sorry. The town followed the rule as well, and Jane wondered how the town thought of Jeff. Were they still scared of him after all this time? He said he made the dress for his daughter, Jane said, trying to make sense of things. Randy's mother. That's morbid, Melissa said. Kind of creepy how he kept it in the window this whole time. Yeah, Jane said, her head spinning from all the new information. Well, either way, JK, Melissa said, starting the engine of the car. You got your dress, and I hope to hell it was worth it. Jane couldn't say for sure if it was, but there was still one other thing she had to say. She tried to find the words she had practiced, but suddenly her phone vibrated with a single text. From her father. Home late again tonight, the message read. Sorry. What would happen if I locked you out, Jane almost responded. Backspace. Why are you such a fucking asshole? Backspace. Whose marriage are you destroying tonight, Dad? Backspace. Oh! Damn! So now that he's, a widower, he's out fucking other married women? I'm not gonna lie, I kinda like this remake. It's still not very good, but I like this remake. It's a little bit more entertaining. It's got a little bit better drama. It's still not very good. Still not very good. Jane took a deep breath to calm herself. The last thing she needed was to piss off her dad. Okay, she finally texted back. Annoyingly, the red receipt popped up. Sometimes Jane thought that her dad left them on just to aggravate her, but she knew that she was the last thing on his mind. Melissa? What? Was I right to tell Tracy to keep her mouth shut? Probably could have worded it a little nicer, but other than that, what do you mean? What if we can't keep ignoring what's wrong with this place? Jane, Melissa said concerned, don't start carrying the weight of the world on your back. Jane responded by asking a question she knew would shock Melissa. How many times has my dad slept with your mom? Melissa paused. Once, she said dryly. About a week after you moved here. He threatened to have her fired, didn't he? Yeah. I'm sorry, Melissa, Jane said in exasperation. When he goes out some nights, I'm convinced someone's just gonna shoot him, but no one does. It's fucked up, but no one does anything, and I don't understand why. Well, my dad doesn't want to go to jail, first off. Second, without your dad, no money, no Everlast. Melissa let out a long sigh. You're not new to town anymore, Jane. You know how it works. I will be right back, because for some reason, the salt on my hand is really fucking with my keys. God damn it, Bobby, stop bouncing that ball! I'm sorry. I thought of that episode of King of the Hill where Bobby called Child Protective Services. It was really fun. I just washed my hands and then I'm stupid and ate more. Well, maybe I'm just sick of being complicit with it. Oh, jeez. Corner of my eye, a little scream scared the shit out of me. None of what your dad does is on you. Nobody cared about this town until Jeff started killing people, and everyone's just trying to move on. Let it go. Itchy nose. Yeah, Jane said bitterly. She remembered how Dawson said he owed his financial status to Jane's father. Moving on. They sat in silence for a while before Jane thought of something terrible. She remembered what Drescher said about everyone being out for themselves. Are you my friend because of my dad, Melissa? Jane was so emotionally exhausted she had no filter. Jane, shut up. Answer me, please. No, I won't, Melissa barked back. I just saved your goddamn life, so don't start pointing that bullshit at me. I'm sorry, Jane searched her memory for the first time she and Melissa met. I just couldn't remember how we met for a second. You knocked on my door and asked to show me around town, like you're doing with Tracy. You didn't do that until I moved here. Why? Melissa's face hardened, and Jane could tell she was trying not to cry. She pulled over and hung her head in shame. My mom told me too. Melissa's jaw twitched as she fought back the urge to sob. Tears came nonetheless. I'm sorry, Jane. Your dad backed off her when he saw we were friends. I'm so sorry. You used me? Jane said in disbelief. That's not fair. It was for my mom. All I did was be your friend. I don't care about how or why you used me. You really think I had a choice? Melissa asked desperately, her sense of humor degrading into bitter sarcasm. You really think anyone has a choice in this town? Everyone puts up with your dad because you do what you gotta do to survive, and if the price is too high, it doesn't matter. You pay it however you can. Fuck everything else. Yeah, fuck me, Jane said sourly. I just realized I don't have any real friends. Get out of my car. Melissa's jaw dropped. She stared at Jane for a moment. I said get out.
No, this.
Oh, no?
No?
No, it looks fine. Why?
It's too hot for me to put. That's the only way I can put it up.
It looks fine, Ma, really. My poor Ma, always worried about how she looks. That was awkward. That was really awkward. Where was I? Oh, Jesus Christ. Fucking mask. Jane said sternly without raising her voice. Melissa let out a single disheartened laugh. Whatever you say, JK. As Drescher said, she got the dress cleaned and tailored in record time. City Center was... Wait, we just jumped to her suddenly having the dress tailored? Wait. That's kind of a big gap. She just got out of the car and that's it? Like what? How do we even know she made it home? How do we even know that everything's good? How do we know everything's okay? What the fuck? You can't just leave us off like that and then jump to like the next day without any indication. What the fuck? No, that's bad structuring. The city center was covered with pictures of Bridget Hayden, Randy Hayden, and a few instances of the unborn daughter's name, Everlast. Ugh. So that's where it comes from. Ugh. Randy's father had given the name to the girl after Jeff had murdered her. The town had decided to take that name as its own. It was hypocritical to Jane, since everyone didn't talk about Jeff but named the town after his most innocent victim. I don't think that's necessarily hypocrisy. It's just kind of backhanded. It's like, we don't want to talk about Jane. The town is now or we don't want to talk about Jeff. The town is now named after one of Jeff's victims. Boom. Totally makes sense. One sec. I just realized that this doesn't actually go all the way to the edge. Okay. Okay, yeah, I've read that. Jane and Melissa avoided one another for hours before Jane had enough. She approached Melissa, who wore a white porcelain mask she had ordered online. It disturbed Jane as she walked up, but she tensed as Melissa turned to look at her. That's not a conflicting sentence. Why do you have but? Nice mask, Jane said evenly. Melissa didn't respond and kept dancing with her date, who awkwardly glanced between Melissa and Jane. I wanted the dress because of you. Melissa stopped dancing and looked at Jane. You blaming that on me too? Melissa looked at her date and asked to have a minute alone. She removed her porcelain mask. What do you want from me, Jane? I want to say I'm sorry. I was a bitch again. Melissa laughed softly. Apology accepted. Tell me, is the masquerade everything you hoped for? Almost, Jane said, offering her hand. I just need to dance with my best friend, and it'll all be perfect. Neither Jane nor Melissa danced very well, but for a few precious moments, Jane's life was truly perfect.
Hey,
Huh?
I'm off like a dirty shirt.
Alrighty. Love ya. See you in a while. Oh yeah, it's only 12:30. Huh?
Streaming.
Maybe. Oh, well, if you need a hand, I'll take a minute. It's not that big a deal. Yeah, I got it. Be right back. Everybody take this time to go to the restroom or something. Oh, it's fucking hot. Oh, there we go. Alright. Oh my god, I just read a little bit ahead. Oh my god. Has anything happened? Not really of note, other than Jane flipped out on her friend because she found out her friend, I guess, used her in a way so that her dad quit fucking her mom. And Jane got handed a dress because she almost sold nudes to her teacher. So, yeah, it's interesting. Neither Jane... Oh wait, I read that sentence. Fuck you, Tracy shouted, grabbing Jane's arm and drawing the attention of the entire masked gathering. Does Jane even have a mask on, or did she just go to the masquerade without one? Because that's very, that's very improper, you know? It's not very, what's the word I'm looking for? Not cordial. It's a word that basically means, like... it's not very formal. That's the word I was looking for. Tracy's makeup ran with tears, and it looked like she was crying in... I guess they meant to say crying in black. My parents are getting a fucking divorce because of you and your fuck happy dad. Wait, what does Jane have to do with her dad fucking other people? Tracy, calm down, Melissa ordered. Leave Jane alone. No, Tracy screeched. This isn't right. It's not fair that that fucking pig can come into anyone's house and just do what he did to my mom. He fucking raped her and threatened to fire her, and now my dad skipped town because she wanted to keep her fucking job. Wow. Bruh. This shit's getting really fucking fucked. Like, I thought it was bad before, but now shit's just going... That's not my fault, Jane protested. Shut up, Tracy shouted again, scratching at Jane's face with her nails. So she didn't even come to the masquerade with the mask. Why didn't she wear a mask? It would have protected her face. Oh, God. Scratching at Jane's face with her nails. They cut into Jane's skin, and she clutched her wounded face, feeling the blood spreading onto her fingers. Jane didn't make a sound. She looked around, and everyone was staring at her. No one moved, not even Melissa, who was too shocked to stop Tracy from talking. That's a really nice dress, Jane. Who bought it for you? The distance between Jane and Tracy shrunk. I have too much saliva in my mouth. The distance between Jane and Tracy shrunk, and Jane looked Tracy in the eyes as she spoke. Does Daddy like to keep his favorite toys close? Ooh, that's fuck. Ew. Ew, fuck you, Tracy. I hope she stabs you. I actually hope she stabs you, because fuck you, Tracy. You are horrible. I get it. Her dad fucked your mom, but, like, that's not her fault. She didn't tell her dad, okay, go fuck this chick's, like, mom next. Unless, plot twist, she totally did, which would be fucked. Nah, it would just be fucked. I was gonna say interesting, but no, that's fucked. The whole crowd went silent, and Jane felt their eyes on her. I'm stupid. My brain tried to make it seem like that sentence was actually fucked up. But that's like the only alright sentence right here. She stood there. She wasn't angry because she knew that Tracy only wanted to hurt Jane because she wasn't in a position to hurt Jane's father. That hurt my brain a little. She understood the blind anger, that powerlessness that Tracy was feeling more than she could say. What? That powerlessness that Tracy was feeling more than she could say. Oh, wait. She understood that blind anger, that powerlessness that Tracy was feeling more than she could say. I get what you were going for, but something about that sentence just doesn't sound right. She knew that Tracy didn't mean anything she was saying. She was just angry. But Tracy was right. Of course she fucking was. Well, I guess this, brings up the whole daddy abuse thingy. At that moment, Jane felt a flood of memories that she had suppressed rise to the surface, all because one bitch said one word. How cliche. To be fair, it happens in, like, TV shows and shit, but, like, you can make a cliche good. This isn't how you do it. The abuse was unspeakable, and Jane had tried to kill herself so many times growing up that she and her mother ran away, but her father found them. Her mother had been stabbed to death in front of her, and the police thought it was Jeff the killer, but Jane had seen it and somehow blocked it out all these years. Okay, so wait, maybe my assumption was right. Maybe she is just gonna start killing people because of like, all of this, because, like, everything's just compounding on her. So, it's sort of a Carrie meets the plot of Freddy versus Jason. It's like, we can't talk about Jeff the Killer, but oh, let's torture this one girl until she becomes psychotic. Except that, you know, we didn't actually have, like, descriptive torture, just her attempting to sell her nudes to buy a dress. And finding out that her friend wasn't really her friend. But now they're friends again. She also realized that she had occasionally acted out on her desires to lock her dad out ever since they moved to Everlast. Any night she did that, he just drove to another house and... Oh. Okay, I'm starting to connect the dots. It's still not a good story, but I'm starting to connect the dots. So she's gonna start blaming herself because every time she locked her dad out, it was to prevent him from doing stuff to her, and he ended up taking it out on other people. That's actually kind of interesting. I'll give him this. This is actually a little interesting. It's not great, but it's interesting. It's better than the original story, to be completely fair. Still not good, but better than the other one. Oh my god, Jane whispered under her breath. I did this. This is my fault. In an instant, her panic devolved into hate. She wasn't angry at anyone, least of all Tracy, but she glanced around and saw them looking at her with concern when they had no idea that she was the reason why this town was so dark. Fuck, is there... Oh god, yeah, you could have put a period at Tracy. And then just capitalized but. You can start a sentence with and or but. Like, it is possible. She heard Melissa at her side saying something to her, but Jane's mind acted too fast to listen. She curled her fist and punched Tracy as hard as she could. No, yeah, I think that's an appropriate response, to be completely fair. I would. Tracy fell backwards like a log and hit her head on the marble floor with a thud and a crack. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Suddenly, sound returned to Jane's ears and she heard everybody yelling. Melissa was holding her back, but Jane didn't struggle at all. Christ, Jane! Melissa shouted, her composure gone. What have you done? Jane looked at Tracy's body and all the people that surrounded her. She saw a bit of blood, but her mind raced with doubt. She couldn't be dead. No. Jane wasn't even that strong, and it was only one punch. This couldn't happen, not in real life. Jane tried to see past the people standing over Tracy and look at the girl's face, but she couldn't. One guy was trying to give her CPR. People started screaming. She heard a voice mumbling. Wait, people started screaming. She heard... You need a fucking comma. People started screaming. Comma. She heard voice mumbling into... God fucking damn it. She heard voices mumbling into their phones and taking pictures and videos. Let me go, Melissa, Jane said over the crowd, her voice surprisingly calm. Jane, Melissa was crying now. I said, let me go, Jane screamed, shoving Melissa off her. Maybe Tracy was so new no one cared enough to chase her, but Jane ran and didn't look behind her until she pulled out of the parking lot as the paramedics and police arrived. Jane entered her house and walked into her kitchen. She pulled a knife out of the knife rack and held it to her wrist. Jesus fucking Christ. No, that is not an appropriate response. That is not a good response. I don't think that's anybody's first response to killing somebody. I think most people's first response is to go curl in a corner and ask, what did I do? What did I do? What have I done? Or, you know, be the psycho that goes, hides the body and whatnot. There's a couple different types of people when it comes to this, I guess. For an instant, she had to wonder if suicide was what she wanted, but to her amazement, it disgusted her. She had no desire to kill herself. What do you know? It's almost like you really don't need to after just punching somebody. The death was an accident. The death was literally an accident. So why are you, like, even considering at all? The front door lock clicked and Jane's heart skipped a beat. Fear raced through her mind. She would have heard the police, but she froze as she realized that she had not locked the door. Dad, Jane said shakingly, watching the man emerge from the door. You're home early. Drake, Arkansas was built like a tank. Oh, God. We sure this ain't Rocket Fist Rick? It looked like she was about to cut herself. Oh wait, I jumped ahead. I'm sorry. And his face sunk when he saw Jane. The door was close enough to where Jane could smell him. Okay, no, I see what they were going for. He smelled of alcohol, his clothes hastily put on, and most of his shirt buttons undone. Jane, he said, his voice slurred but concerned. What are you doing? Jane still held the knife to her wrist. It looked like she was about to cut herself. She realized that she wanted to hurt him before the police arrived to arrest her, so she acted like she did want to harm herself. You could have just wrote, so she had an idea. You know what, Dad? I've decided that I hate my life, and the only thing I can do is kill myself. Her father was so drunk that he actually believed this. His breathing became closer to a sob. Oh my God, Jane, what are you talking about? Oh wait, I gotta like slur my words. Hold on. Okay. Oh my God, Jane, what are you talking about? Just put the knife down, sweetie, please. Jane remembered what Tracy said. She remembered how her father had ruined her perfect night. She put the knife to her throat. Jesus, Jane, stop! What? Why are you doing this? Stop! His yelling made Jane wonder if the neighbors were concerned, but Jane remembered that they knew better than to call the cops on Drake. I'm doing this because I hate you. She rested the flat edge of the blade against her throat, but her dad's eyes widened. He was starting to cry. Jane's voice was breaking up, too, because she wasn't lying about what she was saying. I hate this town. I hate the people. I hate everything about this place. Jane's father was inching closer, and he smelled putrid. She gripped the knife tighter. Jane, whatever's happened, I swear, we can get through it. We always have. There's no getting through this. Jane remembered the masquerade, how they'd all looked at her, what she had done. There was no going back for her. There's gotta be a way, Jane. Drake tried to sound composed, but his breathing had quickened. There's gotta be another way forward, or something. Please. Oh, God, that's actually kind of hurting my tongue to do. I think. Jane felt herself shiver as a new, terrible idea worked her way into her head. What a terrible thought. Sorry. She fought back the urge to smile. She was already going to prison. Nothing would change that now. But what she did on the way might save the town. Maybe you're right. Maybe there is a way. Good. Good, her father exclaimed. He extended his arm to take the knife. We can fight it together. Just give me the knife. Please. Her father's outstretched hand was shaking. Jane could see the sweat dripping from his forehead. She could smell the alcohol from his heavy, nervous breathing. Jane slowly brought the knife away from her own throat, and her hand floated towards her father. She moved forward quickly and pushed the knife into his chest. Drake yelled and moved back. The cut was shallow, but blood still flowed from his lower abdomen. He gripped the wound and grunted in surprise. Jane ran forward and tried to stab her father in the throat, but he lifted his hand to catch the blade. His other hand grabbed the wound on his gut. Jane used both her arms to push the knife closer, and the blade cut into his fingers. Jane! He yelled, desperation in his voice. Jane, stop! I don't know what the fuck that voice was, but he's still drunk, so fuck it. Jane's father took his hand off his bleeding gut and grabbed one of Jane's wrists. He grunted in pain, and Jane felt the pressure close around her wrist. Drake let go of the blade and put his cut hand around the same wrist. Jane screamed as her father twisted her arm in an excruciating way. The knife fell to the floor, and Drake shoved his daughter off. Jane fell over and scrambled towards the kitchen away from her father, who was still standing despite desperately clutching his abdomen. Jane? He was bleeding intensely, and his eyes were wide with fear. Jane rose to her feet and watched her father look at her, a shocked expression on his face. She grabbed another knife from the knife rack and held it out. "Stay away from me," she hissed. "How could you?" her father asked, his voice strangely calm. Jane watched as he glanced back at the blood dripping on the floor. He looked at Jane again, his sorrow and shock turning into anger. He screamed at Jane with a hatred she had only heard him use with her mother. "After everything I've done for you, you raped me!" Jane shrieked. Drake let his hand holding his wound fall to his side as he marched over to Jane, a look of conviction on his face. Jane tried to swipe at his head, but he leaned back, and the knife only cut the air in front of him. He seized Jane's arm, holding the knife, and despite Jane's protests and punching, she shrieked as she heard her wrist snap. Ooh. In a pained gasp, she looked back towards her father in time to see his fist hurtling towards her face. Can't say that she doesn't deserve it, but can't say he doesn't deserve it either. You know? This is a I'm not on either side situation. Nah. The punch stunned Jane, and she felt her head slung back in response to the blow, and her legs gave out beneath her. Jane was half conscious from the punch, and she reeled in pain from her broken wrist. Her breathing was shallow, and her vision came and left. She shut one of her eyes as something wet and warm spread over her face. Blood. She saw her father back away from her, trying to hold his wound. He tripped and fell over, and Jane could see him begin to crawl away. A ringing in Jane's ears deafened her, and she lost consciousness. Wow, what do you know? We got our first instance of her passing out. This is an improvement from the story before. She's only done it once. I'm not going to reread that because they literally just copy and pasted the line for some reason. When she awoke, she was in her bed, her ankles and hands bound to the corners. Her mangled wrist made her cry out in pain. The room spun as her head throbbed, and Jane realized the dried blood was still on her face. How long had she been out? "Help!" she called. She was in complete darkness. How had her dad tied her up? He had looked like he was bleeding to death. Footsteps made Jane breathe faster. Made Jane breath faster. They were slow, and Jane realized it was her father. Anyone else would have come running. Above the ringing in her ears and the footsteps, Jane heard another sound that confused her. Water. Pouring water sounded from the same direction of the footsteps. What's he gonna do? Come in with like a hose and shove it down her throat or something? Is he gonna waterboard her? Oh god, that's gonna be terrifying. Jane's mind tried to piece together the situation she was in. She listened closer and heard the water hitting the floorboards outside, splashing against the walls and making the footsteps wetter. Why was her father pouring water down the hallway? Oh, I'm dumb. I need to keep remembering that this is a Jeff the Killer story. And it wouldn't be a Jeff the Killer story without gasoline and fucking fire. "Dad?" she called, despite her vivid memories of where the pain in her head and wrist had come from. The footsteps and the pouring sound stopped for a moment. Her father didn't respond, and Jane heard him continue walking and pouring the water. She was about to call again, but she realized there was a terrible smell in the air, and she gasped in fear as she realized it wasn't water being poured. Gasoline. Jane started to furiously pull at her restraints, despite the pain in her head and wrist. She didn't understand, and that fear made her move and breathe sporadically. But she failed to break free of the restraints. No, yeah, sporadically is spelled correctly. The door opened and Jane could see who entered. Some light from the street lamps outside made it through the window, and Jane could vaguely see a tall figure holding a gasoline canister. It was too stringy and slender to be her father. Fucking. The guest of honor, everybody. "Who are you?" Jane shrieked. "Get the fuck out of my house!" The figure stopped pouring the gasoline, and in the dim light it looked like it turned its head to look at Jane. A ragged voice responded, "This is my house!" She was about to start screaming at it again, but it splashed some gasoline onto her face. By the way, if he throws a match down, it's just gonna go out as soon as it hits the fucking gasoline. Just letting you know. I've seen it happen. It takes a little bit more than throwing a fucking match down to light gasoline on fire. Also, it's not the gasoline that lights, it's the fumes. So anybody that tells you otherwise, Don't listen to him. She was about to start screaming again. Oh, but some of it made it into Jane's eye, and she clamped both eyes shut as a new terrible pain made her rapidly try to break free. Does gasoline actually burn your eyes if it gets into it? I thought it was like salt water, where it tastes horrible, but it doesn't actually, like, hurt your eyes. I could be wrong. I've never actually tried it, so... She yelled and cursed, and she vaguely registered that the figure had started pouring gasoline onto her bound body. Her reflexes made her want to rub and wash her eyes to remove the gasoline, but the restraints prevented that. She screamed, her voice straining and becoming harsh. "Help me!" Some of the gasoline had gone up her nose and into her mouth. The taste made her want to vomit, but she fought the urge in order to keep screaming, "God, please, somebody help me!" "Good luck with that," the ragged voice said, although Jane could barely focus enough to hear it. "No one's coming." Minutes passed as Jane struggled, the burning in her eyes intensifying. Okay, I'm pretty sure it is not like pepper spray where the intensity just keeps going up. That much I'm very sure of. I don't want to yawn. In the background of her own shouts, she heard a man yelling, and then Jane heard the ragged voice in another room. "Shh! Go to sleep!" A muffled whimper made Jane stop struggling. I cannot read. She heard cutting sounds, and the pain seemed distant. Jane knew that it was her father dying, but she didn't know how to respond. She stared at the ceiling and just listened to the tearing flesh and snapping bones drowning out the quiet groans. Hey, it rhymed. That's my only positive comment toward that sentence. It rhymed. She didn't try to scream anymore. Her heart seemed to slow as Jane felt a strange calmness pass over her. The gruesome noises stopped, and Jane realized that she wasn't alone in the room anymore. Now, to be completely fair, there is part of that one paragraph that's good, and that's she doesn't understand really why she's calming down. And that's because the back of her mind, her unconsciousness is going, the main danger is gone. And so that's why she's suddenly like... Because it's like, okay, one problem that's been plaguing me is, like, gone. But now she's got another one. "You're Jeff," she said quietly, addressing the figure standing next to her bed. The light wasn't bright enough to see him clearly. "One and only," he said, devoid of emotion. He struck a match. "Bullshit!" "Nope. Bullshit story." And Jane sucked in a harsh breath. That should have lit them both up. If the fumes are, that strong, the second he flicked that match, should have gone up. Like that. The light showed that Jeff's face was tilted, and she could only see the half that wasn't mutilated. His hair was disheveled and grew past his forehead, making it hard to see his eye. The red match light made it hard to tell, but his skin was pale. What Jane found most surprising was his demeanor. Jeff stood over her, holding the match, but his eye was calm. "Should have burned this place down years ago," Jeff said, a tired grin forming on his face, but quickly vanishing. "But time flies when you're having fun. Now you get a front row seat." "Why are you doing this?" Jane asked, her voice calm and steady. She should have been struggling, but some part of her knew that it wouldn't do any good now. "Why not?" Jeff responded. He held the match a little closer to her. "She should be on fire already. You covered her in gasoline. The fumes should be ignited already. Are you dumb?" I'm sorry. "Do you know anything more beautiful than fire? Can you think of a reason I shouldn't?" "What's wrong with you?" Jane asked in amazement. "You'll set yourself on fire, you fucking psycho." Jeff let out a single laugh. "A little old for name calling, aren't we, Jane?" Jeff said, extinguishing the match. "How do you know my name?" Jeff walked over to the window and opened it. The fall air made Jane shiver. The gasoline on her body was suddenly icy cold. Jeff looked out the window, seeing the lights on in every house in the neighborhood. Just like when he had killed his parents, they all had heard... brain fart. They all had heard the screams, but did nothing. A cop car passed by in the streets. It slowed, and Jeff could see the officers' silhouettes watch the house. But in a moment, the car continued down the road. Clearly, they must have remembered what Jeff had done to the last police officer that had come into his house. Jeff laughed a little harder. A nice, quiet town. He turned back towards Jane, showing his full face. Oh, wow, that's pretty good art. That's really good art, actually. Is that by the original, like, spin-off writer? Or is that by, like, the Jeff the Killer remake writer? It doesn't say. It's not bad. It's like complete. Like, yes! You are a cultural influence, my friend. He turned back towards Jane, showing his full face. Jane saw that he was holding a bloody knife, and he brought it to his face and stared at it, eyes widening in genuine happiness. He narrowed them again and looked back to Jane, stepping closer to her. He tilted his head, and Jane could see the other half. It hadn't aged well. I don't think burned skin really ages, 'cause it's damaged tissue. It can't reform. So, like, aging well isn't a proper comment. They also couldn't write the correct healed. That's more like he came to a stop. Poorly healed burns. Poorly stopped burns. Coated the side of his face. A thick scar rooted itself on Jeff's cheek, beginning at his cheek, passing over his blue eye, and ending along his scalp. Okay, see, that's... They didn't quite do that in the photo, though. They didn't quite match the description. The scar gave the appearance of a half-smile, and the undamaged side of Jeff's face widened with a malicious grin, completing the gruesome picture. They all want to keep thinking they live in a nice, quiet town. That's what keeps them happy. Makes them feel safe. I lost the voice already, I'm dumb. Jane watched him closely. He wore a black hoodie with holes in it. Oh, they changed it from white to black. Dumb. Dumb. And his jeans were filthy. She could see his ratted hair a little better now, and it clearly hadn't been washed in a very long time. I don't think a psycho killer that has completely lost his mind and is out running around murdering people has any concern for his hygiene. I mean, shit, I'm pretty sure in the spin-off story they didn't even have him in the hospital long enough for the burns to be dealt with. If I remember correctly. I don't give a shit enough to go back and look. He liked to talk, Jeff said, grinning again, although this time it looked pain. He held the knife out in front of him. I don't usually enjoy making it go slowly with people I've never met. But the more I heard him, the more he told me. He stood over her and tilted his head. He begged me to let him go because all he wanted was to take care of his poor, sick daughter named Jane. I asked him if it was the same daughter knocked out from that bump on your head. And when he started to stutter, I started. You're a monster. Is that right? Jeff's eyes widened, his smile growing to show his teeth. He produced another knife, already coated in blood. Jane recognized it as the one she had attacked her father with. Very nice use of Chekhov's gun. Kind of a, like, mild, subtle one, but so was the one in the beginning. So, and I can't give it too much shit. It's a short story. So, it's a long-ass short story, but still technically a short story. You did most of the work. I just made the ending interesting. You're not bad. You don't know shit about me, Jane said sternly. I know your father killed your mother and blamed me for it. Jeff felt something. Oh, Jane. Oops. Jane felt something twist inside of her. Jeff saw Jane's face and started laughing. That's why he thought I was here. He thought that I came to punish him for using me as a cover-up. But I'm here because this place needed to burn once and for all. He looked at Jane again, still smiling. Excuse me. Oh, God. Still smiling, but his eyes were wide and somehow looked spiteful. He leaned his face into Jane's. He said that without him, you would never make it in life. And you know what's funny? He started laughing again. He was right. She spat in his face. The hate that she had killed Tracy with, had returned, and her common sense abandoned her as she felt herself filled with hate once again. Because a spastic teenage girl getting really fucking pissed off is the most powerful thing in the world. It is totally not laughable. Jeff's smile vanished on the unburnt side of his face. You gonna make me go to sleep now? Jane said mockingly, watching him wipe the spit off his face. So they still kept up the switching between crying, upset, like over emotional, and sudden badass. Yeah, glad to know that that still stuck around. Oh, God, my wrist. Jeff laughed as he pulled the match bed out of his pocket and lit one again. You don't know when to shut up, do you? Jeff lit a second match and gazed at it before his smile vanished and his face grew grave. You lit 2 matches? Why? He extinguished the match. You'll be awake for this. Jeff began laughing as he brandished his knife and climbed over Jane's body. Oh no, I don't like where this is going. Jane saw the tip of the knife approach her open eyes. Still laughing, Jeff clawed out Jane's eyes, one at a time. It seemed to last hours, and Jane faded in and out of what she presumed to be as Jane faded in and out of what she presumed to be consciousness, Jane heard Jeff laughing over her anguished cries. At one point, Jane heard Jeff's voice somewhat clearly. Jane, he said, caressing her face. He watched her writhe in pain and choke from the blood that was filling her mouth after seeping from her empty eye sockets. It looked like she was crying blood, and in the dim light, the blood was black and matched her ebony dress and inky hair. Oh, so dramatic and creepy. Ooh. Jeff had never seen a more perfect picture. Go fuck yourself. Our time's up, Jane. But I want you to know that I think you're very beautiful. Now. Jeff pressed the knife to Jane's chest. Go to Kip. He sank the bloody knife into Jane's chest, pressing it into her lung and enjoying her pained gasp. To Jeff's amazement, the knife became lodged in between Jane's ribs and he couldn't remove it. You know what? Oops. You know what? You look even better with it. Jeff stepped back and examined his work. The girl was making her last pained attempts to breathe. The knife lodged in her chest made it perfect. Jane, do you want to know the thing about beauty? The thing about looks? He positioned himself by the window. He glanced down, wondering if the fall would kill him, and smiled at not knowing. Please let it kill you. He glanced back at Jane's tortured form and he laughed. Looks can kill! Jeff yelled. He tossed a match across the room and disappeared through the window into the night. Jane couldn't see the fire, but she felt all of it. No one at the masquerade had told the police Jane had killed Tracy. The cops didn't need to be told. They all knew the Arkansas were off limits. Before the cops arrived, Melissa loudly announced that Tracy had jumped from the building's rafters because of her parents' divorce. What the fuck? Really? I mean, okay, I get protecting your friend, but like, it was an accident. The worst that they're gonna do is make her sit in jail for like a month or give her community service. It was a fucking accident. Why do creepypasta writers think that accidental deaths equate to first-degree murder? Why? Ugh. She knew none of the kids and none of the cops cared enough about Tracy to question the story. Tracy's father had already left town, and the only one who would care was Tracy's mom. Yeah, 'cause you know, the mom suddenly doesn't matter. Nope. Melissa didn't know what would happen to her, but if she tried to go after Jane, then Jane's father would probably have her killed. Totally believe that. I was gonna say even though Jane's father's dead, but they wouldn't know that. So I can't really make that argument there. When Melissa arrived at her house, she tiredly walked up the stairs into her house and dropped her mask on the desk before she undressed and collapsed onto her bed. Since when the fuck did she have a Oh wait, Melissa. You can shame my illiterate ass in the comments. Feel free. Because, yeah, I read Melissa as Jane, like a dumbass. She dreamed of the first fall masquerade she and Jane had snuck into together. Oh, wait. No, yeah, I read that first sentence. We're okay. Melissa had tried too much alcohol, and neither she nor Jane had cars at the time. So after Melissa got them kicked out, Jane decided for the both of them to bring Melissa to her own house. They had to pass through the shopping center, and Melissa noticed Jane looking closely towards the costume shop next to the video store. Video killed the radio star. I'm sorry. Melissa looked towards the closed store herself and saw the dress in the window display case. She was so drunk that she found herself walking towards it instead. Melissa, what are you doing? Jane asked, grabbing her friend's shoulder. Melissa looked at the dress closely and how several display lights illuminated it. That's too nice a dress for a costume shop, Melissa said, slurring her words. Why do you think he has it? I don't know, Jane responded. Let's just go, Melissa. No, wait a minute. Melissa's vision was spinning slightly and standing was difficult. However, she watched the dress intently. Suddenly her legs gave out and she sat against the costume store wall. She glanced at the old bike rack not far from her and remembered that this was the place where it had all started. All of the craziness, all of the killing. Well, stand up. I don't want you to pass out on the ground. Melissa looked up at Jane. I think you'd look great in the dress, Jane, Melissa said, the alcohol talking more than she was. What are you talking about? Jane asked, trying to help Melissa stand. It's kind of slutty for me. I think you'd actually look really nice in it. Melissa's cheeks swelled with heat. She stopped caring what she was saying. With some help from Jane, she steadied herself. Do you really think so? Jane's eyes had widened slightly, her mouth slightly agape at what Melissa was saying. Do I really think so? Melissa repeated jokingly. Jane, you're the most beautiful girl in this town, and you don't even know it, 'cause you're a fucking Mary Sue, and you get everything you want, and you're a tragic little bitch. Yeah, you'd make the dress work. You'd walk into a room with it, and bam, you would knock them dead, every single one of them. You'd be... Melissa glanced back at the bike rack, the story of Jeff sticking out. A sick joke formed in her mind, but she was too far gone to keep herself from saying it. She looked back at Jane. You'd be a real killer, Melissa said, giggling obnoxious. She made an unbalanced gesture towards the dress. Jane the killer. Oh, boy. So that's where the name comes from. Not from her killing somebody. It's gotta be because beauty. Of course. The number one Mary Sue trait. Next to not knowing how good they are. Or how wonderful or how appreciated they are. It's a little too much. Jesus, Melissa, Jane whispered, trying to keep Melissa from falling over. I think you need some sleep in a bed. Come on. My house isn't too much farther. Isn't too much farther. Melissa fell over and Jane couldn't catch her. She began to cough and before she knew it, she vomited. Rolling onto her back, Melissa could already feel herself blacking out. Call 911, she said, feeling another heave coming. I can't see straight. Melissa was fainting, and she couldn't help but keep talking playfully. I think I need to go to sleep. Melissa, you might have alcohol poisoning. Don't go to sleep, Jane replied, concerned. Her voice sounded far away. You won't wake up. Whatever you say, JK. She leaned on Jane and felt her head grow light. Melissa awoke briefly from the dream, breathing heavily. A chill crept through her body, and she pulled her blanket closer. She didn't sit up and only stared at the ceiling for a moment before closing her eyes and drifting back to sleep. And now we get basically a mirror of, Jeff and Lou. Is it Lou or is it Liu? I always thought it was Liu. Used to say it that way too, actually. Jeff and Liu. At the side of the bed, Jane watched Melissa sleep. Her skin cracked and oozed pus that stained the patches of her dress that had survived the fire and stuck to her skin. Why would you put the fucking dress? Well, how did it survive? How did your fucking black dress survive? That makes no sense. It would be tattered at least. Least, mind you. A knife wound spread across the left side of her bare, burnt torso. So wait, if it survived... Oh wait, patches of her dress. I'm stupid. They probably fused when she caught fire. A knife wound spread across the left side of her bare, burnt torso. What the fuck? Oh, somebody just my brother just sent me how to roll a rose petal blunt. Kinda wanna try it, but I don't have a rose. And she held the knife in her right hand. Her right hand reached out to wake... Wait. Her right hand held the knife. Her right hand reached out to wake Melissa. What? To apologize for what she needed to do, but she decided that it would be easier if Melissa was asleep. You saved me so... Okay, I'm trying to think. How would a burnt up voice sound? You saved me so many times, Melissa. It's like you told me. If there's a price to survive, you pay it. It doesn't matter how high. I don't want to do this, but I don't have a choice. God help me. Okay, wait. Why? Like when Jeff killed Liu. Why? What is the fucking point? Or did Liu survive in the last one? I don't know. I'm pretty sure they fucking killed him so that they can make homicidal Liu part of the canon or whatever. But it wasn't God who had whispered to Jane as she burned. God wasn't the one with whom she had made her deal. God was not the one that kept her alive in her miserable state as she made her way to Melissa's house. I'm sorry, what? What the fuck just happened? Are you telling me that Jane died, made a deal with the devil or some kind of demon, and is now undead? What? 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 I'm sorry, what? Oh my god. Jesus Christ. I will cut out the part of... Oh wait. I will cut out the part of him that still feels. I won't waste this. I'm going to kill him. For you. Jane rose to her feet and stood over the sleeping girl. She examined the knife she had removed from her own chest. The fire had charred the blood and left a layer of soot that could not be removed. Soot is not the same as tarnish. Jane took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and remembered Jeff's face inches from hers. She plunged the knife into Melissa's heart and used her hands to muffle Melissa's cries. Even though they didn't add that, I did. Because that doesn't really... To muffle Melissa, that sounds really weird. Jane sobbed harder, but still no tears ran down her ruined face. I love you, Melissa. I love you, Melissa, Jane said. She kept saying it until Melissa stopped moving. She left a gentle kiss on her friend's lips, and the body burst into flames. I'm sorry, is she a fucking Mortal Kombat character now? Because that's the only explanation for this shit. Did she fucking turn into a mix between Scorpion and motherfucking Katana? She left a gentle kiss on her friend's lips, and the body burst into flames. What? Jane stepped back from the inferno and glanced at her own reflection. Her own reflection in what? You didn't mention that there's a mirror nearby. You didn't say that she turned and looked at the mirror on the dresser or whatnot. What the fuck is she looking at her own reflection in? The fire doesn't have a reflective surface. Her eyes were black orbs that stared back at her. Judge Angels, anybody? The burn marks coating her body healed, and her deformed face took on a perverse form of beauty. But she remembered how hideous she was inside and out. Wait, if it's a perverse form of beauty, what happened? She just, like, suddenly turned into, like, hourglass inflation fetish art or something? A perverse form of beauty. Somebody, like, without drawing Jane, because she's, like, fucking a minor, draw your own perverse form of beauty, and I want to see what other people, like, believe perverse form of beauty is. Like, I know what I have in my mind, but I want to know what other people are picturing. Boy. Jeff did that to her. Jeff forced her to kill Melissa to keep herself alive. Why? Explain, story, explain. Why did it have to be Melissa? I get that Melissa's her best friend, but, like, is it because the like, pain everlasting will keep her going? I just realized something. She better not fucking change her name to Jane Everlasting. She better fucking not. The Everlast better not somehow end up in her fucking name. I mean it. I will be fucking livid. For now, she had to offer more blood to keep herself alive until she killed him. Oh, I'm dumb. I'm sitting here thinking I'm putting 2 and 2 together, and then they throw a 3 in there. Fuck me, I guess. So, basically, is Jeff fucking magic now or something? Is he a necromancer? Like, what the fuck? How did she make a deal with Jeff to keep, like, killing people to stay alive? What the fuck made him suddenly, like... What suddenly made him a necromancer? That's the only equivalent I can think of. Like, other than wizard. Or demon, but... Like, from what I can gather, he's not a demon, he's just some psycho kid that got fucked up. So, like... I'm getting mixed signals, to put it lightly. I'm getting very mixed signals. On the vanity by the mirror was Melissa's porcelain mask from the masquerade. See, why couldn't you mention the vanity with the mirror when you said she looked in her reflection? Boom. Problem solved. Not that hard. Jane picked it up and walked out of Melissa's house as it burned. The fire spread to the I thought I was going to say to the costume store. The fire spread to consume the entire town. The handwriting on the note was beautiful. What? Fire spread to consume entire town. The handwriting on the note was beautiful. Where the fuck did the note come from? Did you have a sentence before this one in your head but didn't write it out? Because I've done that before. I've done that many times, actually. I thought I wrote out an entire sentence and only wrote out half of it. It has happened before. Is that what just happened here? Because that seems to be what happened here. I could be wrong, but I feel like we're missing a sentence. Or at least some context, which, oh, wait, yeah, you kind of need a sentence for that. If you, oh god, they had to include the note. If you are reading this, then you know that I found you. If you found somebody, you probably killed them, so they wouldn't be reading this note. If I can find you, then there's no one I can't find. I'm gonna put that on a fucking t-shirt. If I can find you, then there's no one I can't find. Comment below if you want me to make that into a shirt, and if I get 15 people that say yes, I will fucking make it a shirt available on Teespring. I will even have a special discount code just for it. Alright. There's still a little bit of humanity in you. Something that still remembers what love is. That's the part of you I'm going to kill first. Excuse me as I... Whew. I'm gonna die. When I find your brother. Bitch, how you know I have a brother? Maybe I made him up. How do you know? How do you know? I'll start with the eyes and go from there. He'll probably... Oh, wait. Is she talking about Liu? I thought he... So maybe he did live? So he did survive. I fucking hate this quote-unquote universe so fucking much. He'll probably ask me why I'm doing this to him, and I'll tell him that he died the day you let him live. If there's any mercy left in you, you'll make it as painless as possible for him, but I know you, and I wonder something. Do you know how to kill without enjoying it? Poor Liu, caught between two killers. Which one of us do you think he will be more afraid of? This guy, oddly erotic, and I don't like it. Either way, when his life is over and there's nothing but evil beneath our skin, then I will finish what that flare gun started. Maybe you think you can kill me before I find him, but just because you hide in the dark doesn't mean you know what the dark is. You merely adopted the dark. I was born in it. I cannot do his voice, as shitty as it is. One of these days I'll get a Bane, like... Yeah, it was Bane. I'll get a Bane voice changer one of these days. Oh boy. Thanks to you, I can finally see. Sleep well, Jeffrey. Spelled wrong. Jane the Killer. Jeff tilted his head and observed the note. He reached into his pocket and looked intently at the match bed. Inside there was a single match remaining. Fire was a special tool and he used it very rarely. Jeff lit the match and set the letter on fire. He let it fall to the floor, and as it landed, it flipped over, revealing the back. Jeff saw an old poster. He bothered to read just the title. Everlast Fall Masquerade. At the bottom was an image of two masks, one laughing, one sobbing, and the fire burned them both. Fuck, we finished! Oh my god, that was terrible. That was fucking terrible. It was better than the original, but it was fucking terrible. Like, where the fuck did, like, making a deal with Jeff to stay alive come from? Where the fuck did him being, like, a fire demon come from? How the fuck did he bring her back to life to make the deal, and then have her, like, completely convinced that the only way is to go kill her best friend first? And how the fuck did killing her best friend suddenly give her new skin? Where the fuck did this magic subplot come from? This magic subplot wasn't in the original. The original subplot was that Jeff couldn't stop slipping into his mind where his, like, homicidal tendencies were, like, trying to draw him in a really oddly homoerotic way. And yes, I will continue to say that that story is homoerotic. It is. Just read it to yourself alone. Out loud if you have to. But read it in a sultry voice. Boom. You can't tell me it doesn't sound like a weird gay porno. Or at least like the start of a really, really sexual chocolate ad. It might be me, but I always pictured the weird dark pool as chocolate. Other people thought it was semen. Understandably, but for some reason I pictured chocolate. It's shit. That's what it is. But, yeah. So, my opinion, terrible. Still not as bad as the original, but it's definitely terrible, especially since it's completely changing everything. Like, where the fuck did her mom being dead and her dad being an abusive prick come in? In the original, they, like, kind of gave a fuck about her. Kind of. But they also didn't, like, fuck her up. Like, she seemed to be, like, one of the few with normal parents. One of the few creepypasta characters that actually had normal parents. So, like, that completely thrown out the window. Which, I don't mind. I didn't like the original story, like, on its own. And then I really didn't like it after figuring out that the author was, like, a Nazi-sympathizing piece of shit. Jacking off to women in Nazi uniforms. Pardon me, jacking off to furries in Nazi uniforms. It's fucking weird. This, on the other hand, I will admit, I liked it. Ooh, Clockwork. But, I will admit, I liked this one. This one was alright. It changed a lot of shit. But it also, like, slightly improved on her. She didn't pass out 50 million fucking times. They didn't, like, shoehorn her into the other story to, like, make it seem like she's following along. So, I commemorate that. They actually kind of took it a different way that was a little more fitting. I am really glad that they didn't actually go with what I predicted, even though I personally would have found it a little more interesting. Of, you know, every time somebody brings up Jeff, she just gets more and more paranoid that, you know, all these people are talking about him, he's gonna come back, and so she just starts killing them off to silence them, and then, boom, it turns out she's the murderer all along, and she became what she feared. Like, that would have been intriguing. This was slightly intriguing, and then the fucking, murder happened. And then the fight with her dad, which at least it wasn't as over the top as, say, Clockwork killing her parents. You know, I'll give them that. It's still very what the fuck. Just to put it lightly. So, I guess that's all I really have to say about it. Is it's better than the original. It's not good, but it's better than the original. I would like to thank you guys for, you know, watching, listening, whatever. I don't mind if you just have me in the background blabbering. It's like, how am I even gonna know anyway? So, there might be another stream in like a half hour, maybe. We'll see. I've got it set up for 2:45. Pacific Standard Time. We're gonna try and read more Homestuck 2 and see if we can get to the actual cringy shit. But, we'll see. It depends on if I can actually get my friends to hop on. So, for the last time, thank you guys so much for watching. I am your narrator, Fallout Sheppy, and I hope you have a good one. please enjoy your day and stay cool. It's fucking hot.